And welcome back to Choreographed Critics. Today we are recapping the Crown Jewel event from yesterday. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm John, and joining me always is Joel.
Hello, hello. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. We typically broadcast in the evening, but we're switching to Sunday mornings. More convenient and fresh off of a pay-per-view. Everything's a little bit more clean in the mind. So I'm excited to recap Crown Jewel. It was a little underwhelming. I will say that.
Yeah, I agree. As far as Crown Jewels go, it was okay.
Yeah,
Um,
there you go.
but yeah, as far as like stacking it up to a normal PLE, it was pretty lackluster. And I mean, we talked about that kind of how some of these matches didn't really need any true build up because they're just champion versus champion. So that did kind of hinder things. I think that it just wasn't super interesting. Like, you don't really, in my opinion, you don't really feel anything about like Liv Morgan winning or Cody Rhodes. Um, well, I mean, you might feel something about Cody Rhodes winning, but
I felt a lot of feelings. I'm still trying to figure them out.
okay.
But
You know
no,
what I
you're
mean,
right.
though. Like, there isn't like the emotional like I'm so happy for Cody for this. I guess it's more like the emotions like
Yeah.
why did the match go this way? But we'll get into it. Um,
Yeah. No, and something I wanted to highlight, most of our predictions were pretty spot on. I think some of the winners, because we both thought like, oh, the Gunther and Nia Jax, but anyway, the actual flow of the card, I say underwhelming because you start off with the bloodline match, and on paper this should be super exciting, very enthralling. And I felt there was much to be desired after the match completed. Even with Sami Zayn getting thrown into the fray, everything felt very predictable. I was like, okay, when is Sami going to come out? Is it going to be during the match? Is it going to be after? And I sent you a little text when the match finished. I gave you a little, because I just thought, wow, that fell so flat with me. And Roman Reigns did not feel as grand as he usually does. I don't know if you thought his hour-long entrance without titles seems inappropriate now, but that really piqued my mind where I was like, oh, he shouldn't be taking an hour to get down to the ring anymore. I know he's the OTC and all this stuff, throw up your ones. But, overall, his performance was lackluster. The Having the Usos back in the ring was fun, but I don't know if they had jet lag or something. The energy wasn't there. Did you pick up on that?
yeah, I did, and we might as well just get into that match now because that was how the show started. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I did pick up on that. I don't know if it was jet lag or just I don't know. Like they're really gonna show out when they're in war games inevitably. Like that's kind of what happens here. But as far as this match goes, yeah, they didn't really care. They just kind of did it. It went through the motions, I felt like.
Yeah, that's what I picked up on. And that's where it fell flat. And the crowd, usually for a foreign country, you get a lot of pop. And I felt like the pop was very commercial pop. Like that it would pop only when you expected it to pop. There wasn't in the middle of any spot real organic reactions from the crowd. Like you got the ooh ah, and you get the normal pops. But what I'm saying, it wasn't like the French crowd where they're
Right.
hanging on every single punch and they're hanging on back and forth. And so the crowd too felt low energy for the opening of a bloodline match. So it should have been larger than life, having this finally culminate in the ring. but there was something about the venue, something about the energy level that didn't match well with the actual booking. And I will say Jacob Fatu again was the highlight of that whole match. He always has energy. I mean, any you can probably name 100 spots with him
Oh yeah.
week in and week out that are fantastic. But were there any spots in this match, excluding Fatu, that surprised you? Because I had nothing to really name. I was like, oh, okay, some super kicks, low energy super kicks from the Usos. Okay, Roman Reigns is loading up. Uh, I don't know. Formulaic, that's another word that comes to mind.
Yeah. I don't really have much to add. I was hoping you did too. I think we were on the same page. Like, we're just both
Yeah,
like, okay, this happened, this happened. Is it worth bringing up this? And then you're at the end of the match. Like, um, yeah, I really can't think of anything during that I was just like, oh, this is awesome. But one thing I'll just circle back to a little bit during the entrances. So yeah, like you had mentioned, it was just super long, and um, they did it in a fashion where they had Jimmy and Roman come out together, like
right.
uniform, and then Jay came out and did the yeet and doing all this stuff, and you kind of see Roman looking at him kind of like weird, you're just like, I don't get it, yeet, what?
Jealous. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to the match, there really wasn't much there. I I don't know. I kind of want to just skip to the end if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I will say one thing. I did pick up on the jealousy they were trying to angle on, with Roman being like, I can't believe little Oos is now big Oos.
Hmm.
And so the end. I'm not sure you should have Solo finish Roman like that so early in their feud. That really detracted from his trajectory with the OTC. I think even Michael Cole said you could, maybe Corey Graves, they said after that finish, you could feel the air get sucked out of the stadium. I mean, you deflated OTC with that finish. Personally, there should have been interference like we predicted. I thought the finish, it was pretty much a clean finish.
Yeah, it really was, and I mean, it's okay to me that it was over Roman, but I kind of the whole time I was just like, oh, Jimmy's eating a pin, like that's how it felt to me. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it ended up being Roman taking the pinfall to Solo, and then after that, basically there's just Bloodline beating up them, right? Until
Mm-hmm.
Solo puts the um folding puts a folding chair around his neck in the corner, Jey Uso, and
Yeah.
looks like they're gonna do a splash to him, and then you hear, oh,
Yeah. Yep.
oh,
The
here comes
honorary
Sammy,
Oos.
the honorary Saudi as well. Um, he is
For
so over
real.
there, man. Like, I get it. It's yeah. So yeah, anyways, he comes out, and as things were looking like on Raw, he comes out and first kind of addresses Solo. So you're like kind of wondering, but he looks like concerned about Jay the whole time, even though he's looking at Solo like, hey, maybe yeah, we're okay, and then like goes to give him a hug, and that turns into exploder suplex. Um,
Right.
and then there you go, you get Sami Zayn helping out the old OTC bloodline. Um,
Yeah.
I had sent you a text a little bit before this, kind of saying that I heard this prediction. Essentially,
Yeah.
it wasn't clear with the prediction, like if it would be during the match or after, but that it looked like it was going to be Sammy coming out, looking like he was going to help Solo, and then ultimately not helping Solo and helping the original guys, which sets up a 4v4 for War Games.
That's right. Yeah. So it was just a build towards a different show. And
Yeah.
yeah, they could have done it in a better way. So if I was creative, I'll end on this note. I would have had Fatu pin Jey Uso. Um, just because Fatu needs more spotlight, and he should seem like the enforcer and a formidable foe. Or it should have been Fatu pinning Roman. Having Solo pin Reigns was just off to me. And then the whole pivot to we're going to put Jay on the shelf. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not going to put Jay on the shelf. He's way too over to get put on the shelf. So that's not happening. Where's Sammy? Oh, there's Sammy. And that's when the formula came into play. And yeah, I gave this match a C plus at best, and I gave it a C plus for basically one reason. It was fun to see the Usos together, even if they lacked energy in their execution. It was just fun to see, and it was fun to see Roman come out with that envy and that greed to want to be OTC again. He has not humbled himself at all.
No,
So
no, he really
C
hasn't.
C plus.
Yeah, and I went a little lower. I want to see. Um,
I could see it.
I have all the same points. I guess was slightly less excited than you about it. um,
Okay, yeah,
I do think that based on also what happened after, where Sammy was going to attack. Who was in the middle of the ring? Was it Solo?
yeah,
When they
yep,
collided, and
yep,
like Roman was going for Superman punch, and he's going for Psycho knee or something. Um,
yep.
so they collided, and there's probably tension now. You saw Jimmy yelling at Sammy about it. Roman's probably just gonna be like, "You hit me, man. You're not blood." Like,
Oh yeah,
um,
and his face too. He was like, "What is going on? Everything's falling apart in my life." And
yeah,
I'm like, "Well, dude, humble yourself. These people are trying to help you, and you should be a face at this point." But he's still walking it back with that greed and that envy, and maybe that will be the downfall as we head towards WrestleMania of Roman Reigns, which has always been his character flaw as a gimmick.
hmm
Him as the tribal chief never being able to see the forest from the trees and what's actually guiding his victory. He
yeah,
can't humble himself. And so maybe as a character, if they really want to push him as a face and maintain his momentum, you shouldn't have Solo pin him, and he should be a little bit more humble. And it should be I want to see more backslapping at this point. I watched Reigns for 2 years be a dickhead.
right.
you know?
Yeah, and we'll see. Like, if Paul Heyman returns, maybe he helps humble Roman or does something to get them
That'll be good.
collected. Like on the same page by the time Survivor Series happens. Um, Moving on from that, the next match was the four-way women's championship tag match. Um, I right off the bat, I was confused with this match because there were four teams and there were only two legal competitors.
That's
Um,
right.
so is that normal?
I thought the same when I started seeing the involuntary tags. I was like, oh, okay. I thought we were going to have literally a fatal four way like a singles, but they would tag their respective partners in. But yeah, having that, I think it was to control the flow of the match, at least from a creative standpoint. But at the same time, it was still chaotic. I felt
Mhm.
like you still had all the competitors in their own capacity constantly doing something. Um, yeah, I wasn't fond of that. I will say, despite Damage Control not being a favorite of mine, I think they got some new entrance music. That was kind of cool. It was a
Did they?
spin on their, yeah, it was a slight spin. It didn't feel so Bailey-esque. And
Okay.
Io Sky, when when she can fly and she's given that airtime, she's so wonderful. She was the highlight of that whole match for me. I felt like she was the glue keeping the energy together in that dance.
Yeah.
Um, we predicted Cargill and Bianca to retain. They did. Any other thoughts as far as little spots and?
Well, just going back to the two legal competitors saying like there were spots around that, right, where like people were confused
Yeah.
about who was legal. It felt like Chelsea Green was legal 90% of the match somehow.
Oh
Like that's
yeah.
just how it like panned out. Um I thought this was just kind of funny to me at the beginning of the match, or not even the beginning when Chelsea Green and Piper are entering just this Corey Graves quote where he was just talking about how Cole like must think she's the pretty girl at school and that's why he is always just like belittling her.
Schoolyard
And
crush.
yeah, I thought that was perfect, and it just made me think of like a few weeks ago. It was a couple weeks after her dumpster match where like she was ringside for one of the matches and she ends up getting knocked over the commentary desk onto Michael Cole's lap,
Oh
and
yeah.
Michael Cole's still acting like she still smells like garbage from the dumpster match. So he's just like, "Get her off me!" and starts coughing and like
She has cooties, John.
it. I don't know why that shit's so funny to me. I think it's just because they're not taking themselves too seriously. I guess.
It was
Um,
playful, right?
yeah.
Graves is great. He's witty, he's articulate, and he's playful sometimes. Another point with Graves. So the NXT team, they did have a lot of great teamwork on display.
Mhm.
They had a lot of great spots. But the funniest comment, besides the one you just mentioned from Graves, was they did that weird power bomb
Oh yeah.
where she got thrown up and then just kind of dropped, but then the other teammate guided her down into a sit down power bomb. And Corey Graves said, "Oh my God, I'd rather fall off into the Grand Canyon."
Yeah, just off the cuff.
Just over the
Mm.
top silliness. Yeah, he's fun that way. I enjoy their chemistry,
Yeah.
Michael Cole and Graves, uh, more than Wade Barrett and the new guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, but yeah, this match, like I said, the two girls from NXT shine. They did well. The selling was hit or miss. I felt like that's what really
Mhm.
muddled the match for me. A lot of the selling was sloppy, really sloppy. Um, I felt like Piper Niven and Chelsea Green are there just for comedic relief. They are no longer serious competitors whatsoever. Like,
Yeah.
to me, there's never a point in that match where you go, oh, they could potentially win this. Uh,
Yeah,
but
I mean, there's some big slams by Piper, but there was also just she did the splash onto Chelsea Green because she didn't realize it was Chelsea on the ground. And
yeah,
then there's that other uh, I forget exactly what happened the other time, but like she was it Chelsea hit Piper in the corner, I think, and then that led to the end of the match.
yeah, there were two where they kind of biffed it and they had to keep each other in check, but then it all fell apart when Piper actually delivered that slam onto Green because she didn't know that the opponent got switched out. Yeah, so I guess that's why I call them comedic relief. Overall, I thought the NXT girls had a real chance, and there was a point in that Fatal Four Way where I said, "Wow, are they going to have these titles go to NXT?" So I'm like, nah, they can't do that. I mean, you got way too much money and investment in Belair and
Right.
Cargill. So I gave this match a C.
I did as well. I
Okay.
I think we're coming close to Jade and Bianca breaking up, but there's no indication of that in this match. It's just I don't know. I just feel like it's run its course, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you there.
And then the next match, we weren't certain if it was going to happen or not, but it did. Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed. They didn't really take in like any account of him being potentially hurt. I felt like it just they just had a match. Like it didn't come up.
Yeah. They didn't really work that in, did they?
Yeah.
It was like implicit, but yeah, I felt like Seth was fine in the match. In fact, I felt like Seth working his back angle when he was world champion and his leg They did more of that than anything. And now he took that splash, that tsunami outside, and he comes in and he's just like, my ribs are fine. I can breathe just fine. And let's
Yeah.
get this stomp in. This was great, though. This was when the PLE felt like it regained its wind and was running again. Um, so Seth did what I expected him to do, make Bronson Reed look like more than a mid card
Yeah.
talent. He did a great job in that respect. I did not expect Reed to really pull away with a victory, but this is going to probably carry over into this number one contenders match. Seth is
Mm.
going to be entering for the World Heavyweight Championship. We're going to see Reed screw him over, and we're going to see this feud snowball, probably culminate at Survivor Series. But cool, yeah. Between Randy Orton and KO and this, they were both grudge matches, but I thought this match had a better finish because it actually finished,
Right.
but it also had a very clear direction. I knew what they were doing. I also, and sometimes that's bad when it's too predictable. But the way they executed everything down to that final steel step stomp, it was great. It was brilliant. I was entertained. I was pleased with the outcome, and I could see where they're going. And it just elevates Reed a little bit more.
Yeah, that fatal four-way match, that's a good point because I didn't really take that into account after the fact. I just saw the match and was like, "Oh, Seth wins," and didn't really get why. Like I felt like Bronson needed it more than Seth did. Like no one's gonna be like, "Oh, they're ruining all this Seth momentum of him being gone for 5 weeks and then
Oh yeah,
coming back." Like there was no momentum. Like it would have been totally fine if Seth lost.
it
Um,
would have been. Mm-hmm.
but yeah, now that you bring that up with the Fatal Four Way, okay, that does lead us to another way to keep the feud going, which I don't know if there was anything else that they could have planned for if like Bronson had won, other than Seth just
Right.
kind of being retaliatory about it.
Yeah. And that
So
would seem petty.
yeah, but I could see Seth being petty though. Like he's
True.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I did like the finish though. I did like it took three stomps and one of them had to be from the top rope. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
He,
So
he just won't die.
so I might adjust my letter grade a little bit on this because I was for sure giving it a B minus. Just because of the finish, like that's what brought it down a little bit for me. Just that Bronson didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you're bringing that to light for me. I might move it up to a B. Nah. Stick with B minus. B minus.
I have a B minus, so
Okay.
and that's with that in mind. Um, yeah, no, when we were doing the preview, I said, "Oh, Reed's gonna win," but then when they entered the match and it was stated again and again, Reed needs this to prove he's a top competitor. I'm like, oh, he's not gonna win
Mm,
because you're not gonna say that and then automatically push him into that spot and then have Seth go into a number one contenders match. Doesn't make sense.
yeah,
So after everything fell and the cards were laid on the table, I said, okay, this makes sense because there's a direction here with this feud going into Raw. And that's fine. I'm pleased with it. Gets a B minus. The in-ring work was fine. I enjoyed it.
yeah,
So, and again, this match actually pumped some life back into the PLE.
for sure. And into their feud, I guess. If
Yeah.
we look ahead. Um, the next match in the show was the women's grand crown jewel champion, whatever. Um, champion versus champion for the newly minted crown jewel championships. Um, we went into this talking about it kind of being a nothing match. That's really how it
Yeah.
went.
Yeah.
Um, you had said you at least saw a botched cash in taking place, and that kind of happened. I mean, she presented the case to the referee, but that's as far as it went. It wasn't like it almost was announced to the ring announcer, or, like it didn't get to like the like we're throwing her in this match phase of her cashing in. Um,
Yeah.
but it was somehow like even though we didn't care about it, it was somehow still overbooked because they had to get everybody involved with Liv on there somehow. Um,
Yeah.
it really, to me, if nothing else, pointed out just that Nia Jax doesn't have any real friends and Liv Morgan does.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true. Even
like,
though Liv Morgan's friend Raquel is a mute, she's still a good friend.
yeah, she's still a good friend and she has Dommy and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. Did you have anything that happened in the match that stood out to you as being
Uh,
worthwhile to
they
talk about?
need to the overbooking. That's a good way to put it. I didn't think about that. That's so true. They did overbook this because I'm over Tiffany coming out being like, "Yeah, should I? Me?" And then Nia Jax be like, "What are you doing, bitch?" And
Yeah,
it's
let's
just
go
I'm
for
kind of
Liv. I
over it.
promise. Let's
Yeah,
live.
I'm over that angle. You guys need to. It's come time. When did Money in the Bank happen, John? How long is this going to be? Damian Priest all over again?
Yeah.
I really dislike when the winner of that hangs on and does the same old thing where they go, "I'm going to cash it in, but okay, not now." I want them to just do it. And I thought we were going to see it. We didn't. In fact, that I would have bumped this match way up if there was a title change on top of somebody winning the crown jewel championship. And one thing I will say is, holy crap, Dom is such a heel. Just his appearance at the show draws boos throughout the stadium.
Oh yeah.
He must be so proud of that. His character work, it's phenomenal, right? Because like, how many heels could say that just the sight of my character elicits that type of emotion?
Oh, for
It's
sure.
hard to get there.
Especially
So
overseas too, when like some heels are looked at as like not bad, not good guys, but like they cheer him still because they're like, oh, it's Randy fucking Orton. Like even if Randy's a heel,
in
like
the flesh, he's here.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they're not doing that for Dom. Like
No, just straight boos. He doesn't have to say anything. He just needs to show up at the side of the ring, and everybody's like, "Boo!" And I think that's fantastic. Um, but yeah, I gave this match a solid C.
I gave it a C minus and thought it was clearly the worst match of the entire thing.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think if this is my worst grade. It's tied with the Fatal Four Way.
Oh, I suppose, and Bloodline, right? Or no, you did C plus for
I
that.
gave them a C plus.
Yeah,
Yeah, because well, it's the Bloodline.
yeah. And then moving on to the next match, no match, Kevin
Yeah.
Owens versus Randy Orton. Kevin Owens comes out in the Cowboy Bob shirt. Um,
Yep. Yep.
he's been doing that lately. He's been wearing the Dusty Roads.
It's been heckling.
Yeah, so that's been good. They never rang the bell for this match. So yeah, it never happened, but it happened. You know, Randy and KO kicked each other's asses all around the arena.
They did. Uh, and I was gonna say, can we officially grade something that never finished or started?
Yeah,
I did give it a grade, but
I
yeah,
didn't.
having no winner. Yeah. So based on the performance, I gave it a B, and I'll tell you why. The selling was so great. It was so fun. That stunner KO delivered to one of the officials, and he
Yeah.
does like a spin corkscrew. I was like, that's awesome. Adam Pierce is always fun to watch when he just kind of gets red in the face and he's like, no, bro, bro. And Randy Orton, he could work with anyone and make them shine. And then Kevin Owens is equally as talented. So between those two, yeah, they didn't start, they didn't finish, but what a performance. It was fun. It was a fun match. I give it a B just for the fact that they put on a show.
Sure. I'll give it a DNF or a U or um but yeah, it was a lot of fun watching them. I think they potentially set this up for Randy being off TV for a little bit. It might only be a week or two, but
Okay.
it seems like he took the worst of it, and there was like some social media clip of them like wheeling him out of the ringside area on a cart. um so I think they're gonna try to play it up like he took more of it, and maybe that leads to Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes for Survivor Series potentially.
Yeah, one of the two have to be the next step for Rhodes, because who else on SmackDown? You know, you're not going to decouple the wonderful trifecta of Andrade, Mello, and Knight, right? You're not going to push one of those guys. And who else does SmackDown have to offer up that is not involved in the Bloodline feud?
Right, or that he hasn't fought already, like AJ
Oh
Styles.
yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um So yeah, and then maybe this is getting a little ahead of myself here, but I could see potentially not seeing Randy until Survivor Series, and then him coming out during their match, and whether it's to deliver an RKO to KO or to deliver an RKO to both of them. Like I could maybe see that. Um,
I could see it.
we'll see. I think it's interesting, and I could be just completely off, and he's back on TV on Friday and whatever. But I think for building purposes, it would make sense if Randy came out of this a little more beaten up, and since there wasn't a real finish, they can potentially have another match at some point. But I think they got to feed one of them to Cody in the meantime.
Yeah, I agree. And does this mean that with Randy, if he is taken off television, does that mean KO comes back on television? Less social media promos and
Right.
more in ring time? Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. I would think so. I think they'd have to. I think both of them off TV isn't good. But
Yeah, and Nick Aldis didn't eat an RKO. Adam Pearce did, and he's the GM of
yeah,
Raw, not SmackDown.
that was interesting. I was wondering why they did that. Like maybe it's just
Yeah,
like a wild RKO, like he didn't realize who it was, like
the Viper strikes.
cuz some people were saying that with when Randy initially came out to break up Cody and Kevin, like when Randy was behind Kevin holding him, and then like Kevin gave Randy the elbow.
But yeah,
Like he potentially didn't know that was Randy. Like maybe that's what they were doing here with Adam Pierce. Like he didn't know it was Adam Pierce, but um, I don't know.
most likely. And maybe Nick Aldis wasn't really available. I don't know.
Well, Nick was out there too. It just he wasn't the
What I
one that.
mean is like maybe he wasn't available to take the bump. I don't know.
Oh, sure,
I
sure,
don't
sure.
know.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. But yeah. So then after this match, we got the U.S. title match: Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes versus L.A. Knight, the champion. Um,
Oh yeah.
They had a
Yep.
really, really, really fun match. This was the match that I think both of us thought could be the best match, and it
Oh
was.
yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
I have more to talk about at the end, I guess, if you have some spots or anything about this specifically you wanted to highlight.
High energy, big fight feel. Spanish flies. we we talked about like how many Spanish flies, and yeah, there was a modified one off the second rope that was wild. I just feel like with Hayes and Andrade, you're gonna get that. LA Knight is so funny because it's like 50-50 if he hits that top turnbuckle jump up.
Hmm.
you know, when he does it, it's a thing of beauty. But I will say his recovery time is impressive too. They don't have to pivot away from the actual spot. He recovers quite quickly.
Yeah.
And you can see that they're not disoriented by his botch. They go, oh, the footwork wasn't there. Um, no, God, the whole match was great. this, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm such a huge Gunther fan, this match would have been the best match of the night. But I gave it a B plus, and I loved the finish. I'm glad they didn't take the belt away from Knight, and I felt like everything we talked about in our preview came to fruition.
Yeah, and I gave it an A minus. I really
Yeah.
had a great time with it. The one thing that I've been kind of trying to figure out, I guess, is where this goes from here. Just because,
Mm.
like, I like all these guys, but this is the second or third time that LA Knight is retained against these two. Um, Not at the same time, but
Right.
you know. Um, so from here, there's obviously one more Andrade and Carmelo match that comes from this because the tiebreaker was broken up by the
Yeah.
special guest ref. Um, so there's one more match there, and that's I think potentially just going to be a number one contenders match. Um, and as far as beyond that, like I kind of think they have to eventually put this thing on Mello just because out of the
Mm.
three, he's the heel. Um,
Yeah.
and they're at this point in time, like LA Knight isn't chasing anything because he has it.
Right.
Andrade is just chasing being better than Mello. Um,
It
well,
seems. Yeah, it seems to be the case.
so like if they don't go that direction, I don't know who they put up against LA Knight because I, yeah, I mean, if it's not one of these two, I don't know who it is. Like, do they bring back like Logan Paul or um I don't
Mm.
know, push somebody that we're not thinking of, like what's his name there? The guy that was teaming with Baron Corbin. Um
Oh, Apollo Cruz.
Apollo Cruz, yeah, like is it gonna be somebody like that? Because like I don't
Yeah,
know
that's a good question.
I don't know who else there is, I guess. And we just kind of said that about the top of the card too. Like it's
Yeah.
weird. It's weird. Like we have
Well,
these
that's
two kind of up in the air situations as far as
that.
contenders.
Well, that brings me to a question for you. Do you think there's mobility still for Knight to go up the card again? And do you think there's a chance that we see Kevin Owens or Randy Orton fall down the card? Because either way, that would be fun to see Knight versus Rhodes. I think that could potentially be a big draw.
Yeah.
It also would be really cool to see Orton face Knight or Kevin Owens. But I don't see Hayes. Like, let's say you give the belt to Hayes. I don't see Hayes having much mobility. He's too green. He needs his mid card title run first. But if you have Knight move up the card after giving the belt to Hayes, that would make more sense than having Randy fall down the card or Kevin Owens fall down the card.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is do you think there's still room and mobility left for LA Knight, or do you think this is it after his little reigns pop and his mid card title run? Do you think he has any more ability to keep going up?
Yeah, I think he'll get to that position. I don't know if he'll like have a legitimate chance of winning a world title though, but I think he'll
Okay.
be somebody that Cody can compete with and have a good match.
Yeah.
Or if they end up taking it off of Cody eventually to a Kevin Owens or a Randy, um, just another baby face to fight that isn't Cody. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I could definitely see that. And then like if they did go that route, so like put it on Hayes and move LA Knight up, they could bring AJ Styles down, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm. But we did have that pretty good feud between Styles and Knight. Um, and I don't know if there's much flame left in that angle, but yeah, no, AJ Styles, he's another one where he's had all of his flowers. He can kind of he has that mobility, but Knight doesn't have all his flowers. At least well deserved flowers. So I do think he should get another title run at the top of the card. Um, but I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, you and I, when we go to SmackDown, we'll get to see Hayes versus Andrade. That would be really cool. We're
Yeah,
going, for those who watch, we're going in Minneapolis December 6th, the first SmackDown post Survivor Series, which will be fun.
heck yeah. Um, so yeah, do you have anything else about the U.S. title match, or should we move on to the main event
No,
here?
I was really happy with it. So we'll just see where it goes.
For sure. So yeah, the main event then was Cody Rhodes versus Gunther for the Crown Jewel Championship. Um, this was just a really good wrestling match. Like, take
Yeah,
away anything external from it. You just put these two guys in a ring. It was phenomenal to watch.
100%. I think when we previewed, I said we have a classic on our hands. And yeah, overall, it was a classic. You had technical prowess on display. I did think they made Gunther chase the sleeper hold a little bit too much, but
Hmm.
that's just a personal preference of mine. I love when he has a fine balance of his technical prowess and his brute strength. Um, like I wanted to see him kind of snap and deliver three incredible power bombs to Cody and then have Cody kick out or something. But yeah, the sleeper angle was the one thing that made me take the grade down by like zero point 0.5.
Sure.
So the finish was great. Much better than Randy Orton versus Gunther, obviously.
Mhm.
But that finish was superb. It was well played. It was tasteful.
Yeah.
Do you have any like points in the match where you just said, "Wow, that was incredible pacing"? I mean, to me, let me just frame this. When I say something's a classic, it is a well-rounded balance of the skill set of the talent on display, and the pacing is just right.
Yeah, that's a good point. It was very good pace. It wasn't slow like at any point except for maybe the interactions of Gunther trying to get the sleeper hold in and him escaping. But yeah, I did like the back and forth. They both are very good at selling for each other. Um, we hadn't seen them in the ring other than like the Royal Rumbles where they've been like the final
Mm,
couple people. So it was good to actually see like what kind of match these two could put on because again, everyone knows and thinks both these guys are fantastic. Um,
right.
so yeah, it went very well. I liked the finish, but was surprised by Cody being the one to come over on it.
Yeah,
But it played into what you were just talking about with him going for the sleeper hold a little too much. Like that was his demise ultimately. He had it in, but then Cody flipped himself over into the quick pinfall.
that's so true. And I'm might me through my thoughts, and I'm going, oh, you know what? Maybe that was just strong storytelling with the sleeper ultimately being his demise.
Yeah.
But my bias being a Gunther fan was like, that's bullshit. Man, they should have had him do that. He has a much better skill set to deploy. But okay, I'm gonna bump it to an A minus. I'm gonna put it just a notch above the LA Knight match because it was a classic. The pacing was so good, and now that you point that out, having the sleeper be his downfall with that pin, that is brilliant. Now that I think about it,
Yeah, and he's won what has it been like 3 in a row with the sleeper, something like that too. So it's
yeah,
predictable now, like I
that's
guess.
right. It's a playbook.
Yeah. So yeah, now that I'm talking about it more too, I'm a little bit happier with it. But I gave it a B plus, and I'll stick with that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll bump it to an A minus. And another thing, I was so satisfied to see somebody counter the bionic elbow.
Oh
And what
yeah,
better way just to have Giant Gunther be like, boom, boom, boom. And he's like, nope. What? Before the bionic elbow, I'm like, this is going to be great. Because that was pretty early on. Um, But the selling, you're right. Both those guys can take bumps and just keep flowing. There's no loss there, and the storytelling was great through the in-ring work. They both don't need they don't need to cut promos. The hype was already there. And that's where Crown Jewel is going to be interesting when they really take and focus on the fact that you have the two big draws of both brands going at it. You don't need to do a lot of build with that. And so, like we discussed this before, Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia as a venue, it's kind of a place to have wrestling fantasies play out.
Pretty much, yeah. And there at least like is some structure to it now. Like they're saying this is going to be an annual thing. Um,
Yeah.
and these belts, as we suspected, are not leaving Saudi Arabia. They're going to be in the WWE Living Hall of Fame or whatever you want to call their gigantic theme park. Um, like,
It's a weird expo, right?
yeah,
No real wrestling history. The things money can buy.
pretty
It's
much.
just
Exactly. That's the
that's
best way to
funny.
put it. So yeah, they're going to be hanging out there, and then the actual winners get to bring home a Super Bowl ring. I still showed Joel a video this morning of them getting the rings. It was pretty unceremonious, the whole video, but like
Yeah.
the ring looks like a mini title belt plate on their finger, so that's kind of cool.
And it will be interesting to see if they take those rings with them everywhere they go. Obviously, they're not going to wear them when they wrestle, but are we going to see Rhodes with that thing on
Yeah,
all the way
yeah.
through WrestleMania? Good question.
I think we are. I think even beyond Crown Jewel next year, we're going to see Cody with that one on. Just because,
Okay.
like, I think one of the comments Triple H made before the event about them getting a ring, they're just like, yeah, we'll see how many these guys can rack up, you know? So it's
That's
like
right.
trying to be like Tom Brady, or you got like five of them, and like,
Yeah.
but that's going to take so much time. Like, if it's only a 1 year thing, like, you're not going to be able to accumulate very many of these rings.
And
Um,
they can skip arm day because the weight of the rings is already a workout.
there you go.
But I thought it was quite it was very fond of the crowd to chant Dusty. I thought that was a little like special.
Yeah. Surprised I know who
Especially
Dusty
coming out
is.
of a
No, I'm
right.
just
I was
kidding.
gonna say coming from like a Saudi crowd though to chant that. I thought that was really cool. Um, yeah. So thinking about it, I didn't give anything an A. I will bump that last match to an A minus. I'm hesitant because like in my head, what an A is, it wasn't that.
Yeah.
But you really did walk me through some of those points, and now I'm like, you know what? That was pretty cool and clever. Looking forward to Raw tomorrow night. SmackDown, it will be interesting to see what they do with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. I don't expect much in light of like Rhodes. I could see Rhodes kind of setting up his next bout. Do you think we're going to get a title match at Survivor Series? Whether it be, we know we're going to see a title match with Gunther because they're already setting up the number one contenders match. But do you
Yeah.
think Rhodes is in play at Survivor Series, or will it just be about Bloodline and wrapping up some residual feuds from the other areas of the card?
I do think they'll end up getting to Cody versus KO for
Okay.
Survivor Series. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and tomorrow, or yeah, tomorrow would be for Raw. It's technically pre-taped because they're doing it in Saudi Arabia today.
Ah,
Um,
yeah. Hmm.
so I don't know if there's going to be any spoilers from it, or I kind of wonder if they flew out the commentary team for that, or if they're just going to have Cole and Corey.
I hope we get Graves and Cole because besides the McAfee combination, that's my second favorite Michael Cole panel.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, for sure. Um, I'm curious to see who wins the Fatal Four Way. I think we're in agreement. It's not Seth. He's going to get taken
no,
out. Um, Damien and Dom might X each other out, and they might just give this to Sheamus. You know?
that would be kind of cool because so everybody remembers the triple threat from Mania with Gunther, Sheamus, and McIntyre.
Yeah.
So that based on that work alone, it will be a what does he call it, a banger? It would be a banger to see Sheamus and Gunther just rip each other apart. But
Depending when you tuned in for the show, like the first thing you heard was uh Sheamus yelling banger because he was on like the preview show, and he's just like, the
that's
show's
right.
gonna have banger after banger after banger. He said it like 5 times before they cut
And
to
Big
Michael
E's
Cole.
looking at him like, okay.
Yeah. He's like, why aren't you eating this food with me that we're trying out? But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's gonna be a fun week ahead here. We're 4 weeks from Survivor Series. Um, so yeah, look for more to come here. Um, you have any parting words for us this episode, sir?
No, I do not. I do not. I hope Survivor Series is a little bit better than Crown Jewel, but at least the way everything wrapped up, it did pick up steam, and I was satisfied.
For sure.
So yeah, no, nothing left for me. Tune in again. Reminder to our subscribers: we will be airing on Sundays because it's just more convenient for our schedule. So watch for previews, recaps, and special Chronicle episodes on Sunday.
Yep, and make sure to like and share and leave us a comment. We
Yeah.
asked a little bit on the WrestleMania 17 recap for some ideas. So if you guys still want to do that, that would be great as far as future stuff for us to watch that isn't happening in the present. But yeah, everyone take care and we'll see you next time.